friends, we actually have to talk about this video that is legitimately insane. I saw it shared on Instagram by a couple people that I follow, and I had to reserve my thoughts. I don't even have anything totally planned because we are going to watch it again in a pretty authentic manner, but it is wild. It is the comparison of American and Russian men asked if they would provide for their wives. So before we get into the video, thank you for everybody who stumbled upon this video. I would love it if you would join this community, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Also, for those of you who are coming back to the channel, leave your comments down below. What do you think of this video? Have you seen it? What are your thoughts based on what I am about to say, or just like anything you want to add to the conversation? Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. Also, if you enjoy my message and you want to take it a step further by supporting what I'm doing on this channel, I have a members only side of the channel that I recently launched in the last few months. I would love it if you join us over there. But anyway, yeah, let's get into the video, and I'm going to pull it up and we're going to watch it together. I don't know if it's going to get like copyrighted striked after I edit it. So for all intents and purposes, I'm going to summarize what I see.
Asking men if they would provide for their woman.
Well, it just depends, you know. Number one, why would I? But what is she doing while I'm working? You know, it's kind of like each relationship now is a 50-50.
То, наверное, да. Вот, потому что все-таки я беру ответственность за человека.
Nah, she has to provide for herself. She's an adult.
Конечно, если жена, это семья, это дети, и, конечно, в идеале, чтобы она уделяла 100% времени воспитанию.
Well, I mean, I would want it to be 50-50. That's the current situation I have. Right?
Если ей не хочется работать, если ей не хочется самореализовываться, ей приятно находиться на моем содержании, почему нет, я могу себе это позволить.
I would. I would probably inspire her to work, just so I can see that there is some motive going in her future.
Жизнь, как бы, моя жизненная ситуация устраивает, и я живу с девушкой, я ее содержу.
Она должна другие функции выполнять, а мужчина...
Okay, so basically, there's a lot here to unpack. The major themes that I take away from this is, of course, 50-50 has been mentioned a few times in terms of the American side, the American culture of what men view relationships as here. And that, my friends, is a direct result of a narcissistic as well as a heavily feminist influenced culture. Now, before you come on here and say that I am woman hating, I have to preface, because I make traditional wife and homemaking content, oftentimes I get labeled as wanting to put women behind. I do not want women in abusive situations. I do not want them to not have the ability to run businesses, all that kind of stuff. I have to put that disclaimer out there. But what I see is that instead of solving the root problem of what women have complained about in the past of not being appreciated as a wife and a mother, we have pushed that aside and influenced them into living more of a masculine lifestyle, into basically doing the same things as men do in order to be valued, rather than, again, addressing the root problem, which was a lack of appreciation or like certain women in abusive situations. You would be surprised, the actual statistics after the feminist revolution is not significantly less in terms of domestic abuse. And the reason for that is because we haven't addressed the root issue of where some women don't feel appreciated. Moreover, I think that we have made this situation worse by creating a narcissistic culture of men and women really being separated from each other and not realizing the important values of family and working on marriage and working together, and understanding that sometimes there are going to be disputes. Sometimes two people can have, toxic situations, and they need to really work through it in terms of marriage, and that's why we have marriage. But with the normalization of things like divorce, we have really created a culture where people get married, but they don't really get married. They live parallel lives, I've said this before, alongside each other, which also feeds into the 50-50 mentality. You have a couple men talking about the importance of 50-50, of like pulling her weight, and we haven't addressed the importance of like what a woman does in terms of motherhood, carrying children, birthing children, the feminine touch that a woman brings to homemaking, those things such as like mental load that many women are talking about right now. The reason why you have this uproar of women who are so upset is because, again, they have haven't addressed the root issue of appreciation of what a woman's role is. And also, it is sad because now women cannot relax in marriages. There's a big difference for those of you who are here who are like working women and you like my message on this channel in terms of femininity. A big difference between being in a traditional marriage, so to speak, where both of you might decide together that you want to up level your quality of life, and so that means that the woman is bringing an income rather than what these men are talking about in terms of like a 50-50 where you can't rely on your man. That is very scary for a woman, especially women who are young and they are influenced by the culture and they don't realize how vulnerable you are as you age as a woman. My mom had cancer. I watched her go through that even though she was a working woman for the majority of her life, because her and my dad decided that it would up-level their life to have her in the workforce. He still was a masculine man in the sense that the buck ended with him, that she could depend on him. When she got cancer, she could depend on him because he had the responsibility at the end of the day that he was the leader of the family. And it seems like in Russia, they still understand the importance of this. Particularly, we saw a couple guys talk about the importance of like a woman raising her children. It is so normalized in North America to send your kid off to daycare to be separated from your child. And I know I'm always going to get the nuance sayers and the naysayers coming on here who have their kids in childcare, and I want you to know that regardless of what my personal opinion is and regardless of the facts that I present on this channel, I do not go around judging people, but this is my channel where I have my personal opinion as well as facts that I present in adjacent to my personal opinion. There's a big difference between that and being like a negative, hateful, judgmental person. So we've really lost the importance of what a woman's role is. But also, I do want to appeal to the conversation about men. I am not a masculinity channel, so if you have resources down below that you think are important in terms of like masculinity, what it means to be a masculine man, you can always put them down below. But what I know from the masculine men in my life, especially my husband, the purpose of being a self-actualized masculine man is providing for a family, having a purpose, having responsibility and leadership, being worthy of respect. And my husband and I have actually been talking a lot about this because even though I am a traditional wife myself, I have gone through modern culture and I still have selfish tendencies. Like I mentioned, a narcissistic culture, narcissistic influences. I went through, the boss babe culture myself, being raised in that. So although I did everything right in terms of being a traditional woman, there is always going to be some deprogramming to have more of a family first mindset as a woman. Anyway, based on our conversations, it did make me realize that I do understand and I am sympathetic to more so of what people talk about on the internet in terms of red pill content. Men who are discouraged, men who like go their own way, men who might fall victim to the 50-50 mindset of viewing women as men because they too have been constantly fed this mentality that men and women are the same. And it takes a lot to humble ourselves to understand that we are not, because that in terms of the context of our society might mean that you as a woman have to be comfortable with being weaker in certain senses, which doesn't make you less valuable, but it's different. And that might be a hard pill for many women to swallow. Moreover, back to what I was talking about in terms of masculine content. I don't know anything about Russian culture, but they might have women who are less self-centered, who take on more of that nurturing role in the family, who are worthy of having a masculine provider man. And I know when I say that, that might ruffle some feathers here because we are really being brought up in like the goddess culture mentality. But as women, we still have to act in a way that is worthy of respect of our role as women, just like men need to earn their respect as well. We can't just expect everything to be handed to us and we are not willing to make the proper, sacrifices, so to speak, in a relationship to put that relationship first. We have been told that we can have it all, so sometimes that translates to like having our cake and eating it too, wanting everything to be given to us in terms of the career, the worshiping, the motherhood, without understanding that everything kind of has a concept of tax, which I do want to talk about in the next couple weeks, but I'm just laying out my thoughts based on this video right now as they come to me. And as I'm reviewing the video a second time, I do want to come back to the first mate who doesn't quite understand what she would do while he was working. And that is what I'm talking about in terms of a lack of understanding, of appreciation of womanhood and motherhood, of not understanding how women might be softer, might be weaker in certain senses. When you are pregnant, for example, you are very vulnerable, which I've also seen in the mainstream leads to the destruction of the mentality of the man coming home and asking the woman, like, what did you do all day? But in the same vein, it is still a complicated subject, because I understand the perspective of how us women in modern culture, sometimes we are lazy, sometimes we do slack on our roles because we are just used to many things being handed to us or being told that we are goddesses, queens that can't mess up. And so that really is like a big theme behind my channel, is like, how can you achieve a soft life but also be disciplined in your responsibilities and take your role as a wife and mother with a high vocation, inspire masculinity in your husband, respect your husband, and also recognize that you do not have one of these like lame as heck husbands that are on this video, and you have more of a husband, like, I know that people don't like Russia right now, but you know what I mean, like that traditional mentality husband. For me, I've always had pretty high standards because the men in my life have always been very masculine, dad as well as my brother, so expecting what my husband is, it has never really been a surprise to me. And so sometimes I do find that I'm a little bit in my bubble, but I see content like this and it really helps me even appreciate my husband more, because I realize how much of a rarity he is. But it's also so sad that he is a rarity and so many other women are suffering with men who just don't understand the role and value of a woman. But again, there's still a fine line. You still have to be a woman who takes her role seriously, who is willing to do the work to be an honorable feminine woman. And so that is why I've also mentioned on this channel before that doing the role of a traditional wife and mother to the degree of excellence is hard work. Reaching that degree of excellence is almost unattainable, but doing it in terms of your vocation is a full-time passion, hard work project. So anyway, what do you think of this video? Leave your comments down below. Hit the like button again if you enjoy this series. I super love this series because it really helps me talk about things like as if we're sitting down as girlfriends with a coffee on mainstream topics. And also, once again, if you enjoy my message and you want to support the channel further, please consider becoming a member. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.